Welcome everyone to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about mindset from the start to how we can be a better parent, right? So typically when you're younger, you have no intention of being a parent. You kind of just want to move through life, live your life the best way possible. And then after, you figure it all out later. But the problem with life is that sometimes we move in a way that the system wants us to move. And sometimes we can see the flaws in the matrix and we say, you know what? I don't like what's going on. I'm going to change my circumstance. I'm going to change my destination. I'm going to change who I was supposed to be. Because who you were supposed to be might have been what other people laid out for you, right? The American dream. Big house, a white house, white picket fence. 2 kids, a dog or a cat, whichever one you prefer, maybe even both. And then that's life. You work a 9 to 5, at 65, you retire and you die in the next 10 years, and that's life. But what happens if you want more out of life? How can you start to see what is in between the lines from when you're growing up and then now that you have grown up, who have you become as a person? Because now we have enough years behind us, behind certain movements, where we can look back at them and we can say, this is not helpful for a generation or for society. Yet more people are falling victim to these type of trends or these movements because that is what the narrative is. But the narrative doesn't have to be that. The narrative can be your growth. It could be your development and it could be your best life. How do we get to that mindset? So today we're going to be bringing on a guest coach. He is a mindset and fitness coach. We do focus on mindset, but fitness is a critical aspect to mindset too. So understanding mindset from the start, because we didn't get to finish the whole totality of what it means to be growing up and becoming the person. Yes, we vaguely touch on it, but I want you to dive into this interview with an open mind and then to reflect on how does your life emulate what we just spoke about? And then ask yourself, well, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do to change my life after this interview? So let's get into that interview so you can hear this goodness, you can hear this greatness with David Fishchuk and myself. Welcome, David Fishchuk, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
Oh, wonderful, Michael. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks so much for coming on. Today, we're going to be talking about the work that you do, and it's going to be in the world of mindset and fitness coaching. And if you know anything about mindset, if you know anything about fitness, they're one in one, they go hand in hand. If you don't have a strong mindset, then your fitness is probably struggling. And if you are not into the fitness world and health and wellness, your mindset is struggling. So all of this is like a complete package. So for someone to bring this in the eyes of people saying, hey, you need to fix your mindset and you need to fix your fitness, this is going to help elevate you. So today we're going to be talking about that. But in your own words, I would love for you to tell the world who you are, what you do, and how you help them.
Hey, everybody. My name is David Fishchuk. As Michael said, I am a fitness, mindset, and nutrition coach. I come from a background of being a first-generation Ukrainian in this country. Came in the early 90s, and I was born about a year after my family came from Ukraine. Grew up in a single-parent family household on low income, in a welfare housing, food stamps, the works. Basically, I overcame all the statistics. If you know anything about single parent family households, the rate of success from a kid in that type of environment is extremely, extremely low. My mom raised me and my brother by herself and with the help of my elderly grandparents, but we're all stuffed into one spot. I didn't have a father around. He's technically around, but I haven't seen him maybe twice. Once at grandpa's funeral, once at my brother's funeral. The crazy thing is, I never looked at that as the biggest problem in my life is not having that father around because my mom always told me growing up, you may not have a father on earth, but you have a father in heaven who's always looking down on you. So I always used that as something to look forward to always. And whenever I was around, say like my uncles or other men that I was inspired by, I used that as something that in the future, hey, when I want to have a family, I'm going to model it after what I see as success, not sit there and be a victim. Well, where most people like to always be is that victim mentality, right? Of woe is me. I may be dealt a bad hand, but it's not where I came from. It's what I'm going to do. I took every advantage that I could growing up. I, of course, you got the free lunches at school, but I got a free AA degree for college. I got it in computer science. And basically, I took every little bit that I could, focused on getting that degree, focused on not being that victim. And around 2015, I got married, started a business. My mom graciously allowed me to rent her bedroom from her. Me and my wife, newlyweds, just starting a business, worked at my tech job in downtown Seattle, the one I got my degree with. And then from there, I did what most people struggle to do, and that is start a business and work in a job and find the time to live life, get all that effort and work put in with working a and starting a business, and then taking all of that self-discipline that took me there over the years. And now I use that knowledge to help others by having the strong mindset. And then, just like you were saying in the beginning, getting your fitness dialed in because your body is an outward representation of your inner self discipline. Help others in all avenues of life, right? Men who are struggling with dropping alcohol, men who struggle with other addictions, and those who just are even in business and want to take it to the next level. You find that you might have wealth, but without the health, you run into long term issues. And most people will neglect their health in the pursuit of wealth. And that just is a recipe for disaster. So that's what I'm here to do.
Today, we're going to probably stick to mindset. It seems like your story is going to be most suited to have a mindset conversation. So I wanted to start at where you were growing up, right? So you were young. You might not remember everything. What was some of the hardships that you had to face? I know for me, I'll kind of give some examples. I mean, I grew up in the ghetto, whatever you want to call it. We always struggled to pay the light bill, the water bill, the heating bill. Like, I don't even know how many years we had a broken furnace. So like we didn't have any heat and we're in Connecticut. Most of the time we slept at our grandma's house because there was no heat at the house. And if we did have a working furnace, did we have oil? And if we didn't have oil and we had a working furnace, we probably didn't have electricity. So it's just like if one thing was not working or wasn't paid for or broken, whatever it was, there was always something that it was like, okay, this is not working. So growing up in that environment, it makes you tough. It's almost like you're camping all the time. As a kid, I never said, oh, poor me. Look at all these people who have heat in their house and all these people who can turn their lights on and have running water. And I mean, it's easy for me to have said that, but it was always like, all right, well, this is reality. That was my reality growing up. So I wanted to get your perspective on mindset because I know you said you're coming up, you move over with your family in your house or your apartment, just the family crammed in together. How is your mindset then?
Mindset then growing up, honestly, it's almost in the same boat because we would have the same situation. It's you would have the washer and dryer that would barely work. You'd be told, don't turn it on until later at night to save on electricity. Everything we did, we would before we'd go back to school, I would be getting hand-me-downs for clothes from my older cousins. Or we had these programs, some up in Seattle where they would allow you like allocate you like a few $100 before school started to get new shoes or get new clothes. And it would be this whole environment where that's just what I was used to, kind of like you, where you say, you got to make sure you have enough oil for the furnace. Same thing. It is one of those come up things, but my mindset back then, it was not one of that I have now. I didn't have a victim mentality, but it was more so just, I'll just take what I get. And I'm glad that I have clothes on my back. I mean, I was made fun of, like people would see that, hey, clearly this is an old jacket, or I'd get gifted a random nice item from an aunt for my birthday, and they'd be like, I don't know if you ever remember these brands like Abercrombie and Hollister and all these old, I think they're still in the malls. I'd have that one shirt I'd put on, and people would look at me all weird. They were like, what are you even wearing? It's not normal. These days, I think differently, but then people would look at me, obviously, because I'd always be that low income kid. You would see those kids buying the cookies at school, and I'd be here with my lunch that they just gave me the slop that they'd give you for free school lunches. If you look at me now versus then, no one would have even assumed that I would be where I'm at today. That mindset gets developed after going through the hard times because this is what happens today. Kids who have a family, a father, a mother, they have all the means in the world. What happens to them? They grow up soft, they grow up weak. So when reality hits them in the face, when they graduate high school, they graduate college, look at all the kids now. They're weak. But you have guys like you and me where we didn't have all that growing up. We understand the struggle. Their biggest struggle is my mom didn't give me $5 to grab that snack after lunch at school, so I look cool. I got those new sneakers on, all of that. I didn't have that. For me, I thought that was normal. Now, because I'm older, I'm just turned 29 this year. I started my business I was telling you about when I was 22. My mindset wasn't even like that. I met somebody like, all of us when we start getting older, we start looking at, go through high school, like, ooh, that kid has a cool new car. I want that someday. But you don't believe you can actually get it. At least I didn't. I just thought, hey, I'm just going to work my normal job. I'm just going to get married, do my thing. Hopefully life turns out great. But then I met a guy at my cousin's wedding who had a yellow Lamborghini. And I talked to him because I was starting to get interested in business. I watched this movie called The Wolf of Wall Street, and I was like, I want this lifestyle. And it started hitting me. I was like, my mindset shifted from just go through the motions. I'm glad I've got a job in Seattle and I can take the bus down there. And then it went from I'm part of the gang to I want more in life. And it went from, hey, I got all the struggle growing up. I didn't think I can attain anything to this guy's my age and he has a Lamborghini, lives downtown. I want that. And so I had to shift my mind from basic to what is an elite person and how do I attain that? So hopefully that answers that part of the question.
This is definitely a conversation. However you answer is just going to lead to the next part. You are right. People are in that weak mindset. They just have that weak demeanor because they have parents who might have struggled. And now what they have in their mind, which is like probably a terrible thing for parents to think, I'm going to give my kid the life I never had, or I'm going to try to make my kid's life as easy as I can. I understand as a parent, yes, you want to do that for your child, but at the same time, you're doing them a huge disservice for their future. You have to understand that the real world is not you. You're going to love them. You're going to care for them. You're going to provide. You're going to sacrifice for them. The world won't do that for them. If you just give them that growing up, they're going to step into the real world and they're going to think, well, why is my world all messed up or it's not like back at home? Now they're going to just say, oh, I hit a wall. How is their mindset to get over that wall? And some are very fragile, very meek. The moment they have opposition, they're like, oh, not doing it. Or they just look for the easiest thing that they can do that they can be somewhat successful. Maybe it's a 9-to-5 job. A lot of younger folks are doing TikTok and YouTube and stuff like that. They're just trying to separate themselves, but they're doing it in the fashion that's the easiest way for them. It's no longer about the hard work. It's no longer about the trades. It's no longer about the struggle. It's because most of the people who were probably 26 to 38 have changed their life so drastically from their childhood. Now they're having kids and they're saying, I'm going to give this kid everything. What do you think that does to the child? And what do you think that does to society if a parent stays in that mindset of trying to baby, trying to coddle, and not allowing their kid to experience hardship?
That's actually a crazy thing that you would say that because my daughter's 2.5 years old. I have the life that I never had. I'm juggling that actually right now because growing up, I didn't have any of that. We would get gifts, but they would be like the cheap Walmart gifts, right? And like I look at it now and I'm like living in this bigger sized house, and my daughter does not have lack for anything. Granted, she doesn't quite understand everything yet, but I know for a fact that as she grows up, me and my wife are on the same page. Her family came to the United States maybe 10 years after we did. She actually was born and raised a bit more in Ukraine. So she gets to see and grow up differently than I did. Two different countries. I've never even been there. We both are on the same page of we don't want our kids to grow up spoiled because that destroys them. They need the lessons, they need some kind of hardship. It's easy to say stuff like that, right? Like, don't give your kid the phone at the restaurant and stuff, but you don't want the kid to scream and yell, right? And like, what do you do? So it's a different environment. But for me, I don't want to give her whatever she asks for every second of the day. But you also have to consider one big thing is that kids aren't being instilled proper values. It is a mix of I want to give her a different life, but also anytime she receives something, she would be thankful for it. Anytime that there's a lesson that needs to be said, I won't brush it off. We'll stop, take the time. Being in the businesses that I am, I'm able to work from home and wherever we go. And my wife is able to stay at home with her daughter. So whatever kids we have in the future, at least parents will be there and be present and be able to teach them right from wrong versus hand them whatever, throw them in daycare, don't take care of them. It's hard to say exactly. We're learning as we grow, especially as our daughter's growing up, so she can understand a bit. Do you have kids or do you plan on having kids?
Yeah, I have one. I was a teacher for 5 years. I was teaching since 2009. I worked with kids a good portion of my life, actually.
How old are your kids?
One,
Well, there you go. I'm 2.5 and you're one. So it's different. You teach kids and then when you have your own, it's a little bit different, huh?
I wouldn't say it's different. I always say this when parents come ask me this question or something like that when they're new parents. They say, "What's your advice for me? Like, just give me anything you got." And I say, "Okay. The number one advice I'm going to give you is that no one is going to care and love your child the way that you or your wife will, and grandma and grandpa for the majority of the times. Your brother, your sister, their aunt, their uncle, not any of your friends, not the daycare, not the teacher. It's you and your wife, and it's going to be the grandparents. Those are going to be the people who you need to make sure know what type of child you want to raise, and you work together to raise that child."
Yeah, that's actually very true because we're very careful of saying what's on the TV. If we know there's a cartoon we're playing, or my mom lives down the street, so she's always really close by. And we're actually making the move from Seattle to Florida, and we're actually just blessed. Like, I don't know if you believe a lot in visualization, but I oftentimes, this is how I've kind of gotten to where I am in life, is I visualize things that I really want to attain. And it's a blessing to have my mom down the street because she's in the same belief as I am with raising our daughter. We talk and communicate back and forth a lot. Is like we give each other feedback. My mom won't say anything there, but she'll be like, "Hey, I know that your daughter was running around," and we'll have that communication, and we're on the same page. That is that's really smart, and I'm blessed that my even my mom is close by because a lot of people don't have say grandma and grandpa around with the same values or even care to raise a child as well and help out in that aspect. So such a blessing to have that ability over here.
I just did an episode. You will definitely appreciate this. By the time a child is 12 years old, you already spent 75% of the time you ever will with them. By the time they're 18, you have spent 90 to 95% of the time you have ever spent with them. And the only reason that 5% is because it's how you raise them. If you were a distant parent and you were never there, they're not going to be there and they're not going to want to spend time with you. And if they don't have a strong family code, meaning I'm growing up, this is my family, I need to love my family, they're not going to hang out with you around Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They're only going to hang out with you around special holidays, things like that. It's a different dynamic because as soon as they hit 18, it's like you have 10% or you have 5%. You get to make that choice today as a parent, because if you have a young one, you have to do everything you can. And one of the things that you have to understand is that you're never going to regret any time you spend with your child. You will maybe miss out some money. You might miss out on some opportunities, but the time you spend with them is going to be invaluable when the years have finally stacked onto you and now you get to spend time with them.
That is so true. Because you always go through where you experience. I always see my mom. For me, it's less of that 95 than 5% because she did raise me in a way. I think a lot to myself, like, yeah, I didn't have a father around, but my mom was so present, even though she was working multiple jobs, that to this day, like, I am attached to my mom still, like we're always talking, checking in. She's in Florida right now, and she just sent me before this call some like videos and pictures. But you are right. It's how much effort does your parent instill in you as a child to make you actually want to still be around? My mom was that role model and that figure, and she was a disciplinarian, but she also was someone that no matter what I can go to. And I want to be able to do the same thing for my kids. Is I want to be able to have my kids understand, hey, this is the parent. I'm the one that's leading the family with me and my wife. But at the same time, I don't want to push them away. I don't want to make it so once they turn 18, they say peace out, never want to see you again. I grew up with a lot of people around me. They just don't care about their family. They don't even care about seeing them on holidays. And I love seeing my mom at least a couple times a week if I can, regardless if my daughter's around. I even just go see my grandma. My mom still takes care of my grandma. She's like takes care of her in house. Now when I go see my mom, I go see my grandma. And now my daughter gets to see her great grandma all the time. And it's weird to me because that's normal to me. But you ask a lot of people, they're like, when's the last time you said hi to your grandparents? Let alone your parents, it's your grandparents. Isn't that crazy how the world today is closer because of technology, but we're further away the same time because we feel like we don't have to go see them in person. But in person and seeing my grandma is way different than giving her a phone call or, you can FaceTime people these days. Like we FaceTime my wife's grandma in Ukraine, but it's like, how different is that to actually give FaceTime and see him in person? That's what's crazy to me. I do think going back, it's how do I, in this environment, raise my daughter how my mom raised me? But obviously, I'm in a different position because my mom did such a good job given what she had that I still love her to this day. And because of the way that I was raised, I still, elders around me, my aunts and uncles, most kids, they don't care, right? They'll talk down to their parents. I always wonder oftentimes, like, how did my mom do it so well to the point where I'm able to actually discern and respect others around me? Whereas people who've been handed down stuff or just parents neglected them, they don't care about authority, they don't care about anything. Isn't that wild today, right?
It's all because of the traditional modern values that are instilled in us. Because if we go back to the 60s, 70s, destruction of the traditional values began with feminism. And then it kind of just trickled down from there. And I'm not saying that if you're a feminist, that you're the reason to blame for everything. What I'm saying is that that was just kind of like the starting role that kind of knocked everything over. We have that type of value. And then we have men saying, well, if women want to be powerful and they want to be boss babes, cool. Now men are just saying, well, I don't have to show up either. So now basically people are looking for an easy way out. And what's happening is that people, when they said, I'm looking for an easy way out, they basically said, how can I live my life and not worry about other people's lives? So they don't worry about grandma. They don't worry about grandparents and stuff like that. They don't worry about mom and dad. They care about themselves. Sometimes it's appropriate to, focus on you. But the way that it's happening in the world today in the modern society is that the focus is I'm going to do what's best for me, regardless of my family, things like that. They focus on themselves and they don't realize that as they are growing up, their parents are getting older. Kind of like they just turn a blind eye to the people who raised them. So now they have those modern values. And if they said, you know what, I'm going to look at my parents, the people who helped me be the person I am to be, good or bad, because parents can maybe not be the best role models, but we can still learn through perception. I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my dad. Versus my mom was great. My dad is awesome, right? I want to be like them. I want to emulate that. Every child gets to make that choice. And when a child doesn't make that choice, that leads to more modern, then that leads to the mindset that they're just going to go the world as a lone wolf.
I couldn't agree more. In this society, I push very heavily on traditional values because although I didn't have a dad in the household, I still had a great enough childhood where I still felt my parents were around. Well, my mom basically, and then grandparents, aunts, and uncles. I saw those stable houses as something that is to be valued. Whereas for some odd reason, whether it be social media, politics, everything, people have just kind of gone haywire and they go, I don't need anything. Whatever I was raised up in, I didn't like the chains on me, as they would say, the chains. They don't like any of the structure. And then look, they say the hardened generation makes it easier for the next generation, and then it just flows downhill. Up until now, things are very difficult and hard. And we realize now a lot of people are waking up to this. Even kids now that are under 18, they're like, well, hold on a second. Why is it some of these like young adults are now hitting 30, 35? They have no kids. Now, with the feminist movement, what has happened from the feminist movement? I love women. I respect my wife, but our household, I am the breadwinner. I'm going to provide for the family. My wife is my number one. Like me and her are equals, obviously. She helps me provide for the family. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be where I am today. She gave me the right introduction to the guy that I met. She's always pushing me forward. She's taking care of my daughter when I'm working. Like that works. But what would happen, and this is also another thing where I said about throw your kid in daycare a few minutes ago, it's terrible, to be honest. Now you don't have mom, you don't have dad in the household. So now who's raising your kids? You're just trying to struggle to make ends meet. And then here comes social media going, ooh, yeah, but you want the new Range Rover, huh? You want that new house, huh? That girl has that bag, my man. Get me that bag. And then the guy goes, okay. So now you're working, you're making money together. Your kid's getting neglected. What happened? course, there's other things around there, right? Like the tax system was made, the feminist movement was pushed so that there could be another tax bracket and more people to get taxed. Now, I'm not taking away from any woman who wants to get her bread at all. I respect that 100%. But we also have to realize, like, hey, what does it mean for our next generations to come? If all we do is stack bread, you got 35, 40-year-old women now who have never had a child, who are looking for that man, but now the men are going, yeah, but you're 35, 40 years old. There's women now, because this is what last 10, 15 years, we've seen this whole boss babe movement. Well, boss babes now looking back and going, I wish I just found that guy when I was 25, 26 years old, settled down. We built something together. Now I understand the structure. People don't want structure. Like when my wife tells me I've gone too far, like I've been working too hard, and she's like, hey, maybe we should reset, take a Sunday off, go to the beach, do whatever. I go, you're probably right. And so we have that communication and that talk. But people these days, they all want to be pushing for number one, but we all have to realize that there's more to this life. Like I plan on having more children because I believe that children are the future. And so I'm going to raise my daughter and my future daughters and sons to be and emulate the same type of values that we had, right? We go to church every Sunday. And it's funny because I see a lot of people leaving public schools and going private. But then private schools are now kind of that whole like political indoctrination system where they just teach you everything. But people that aren't Christian, for example, are taking their kids to faith-based private schools because those faith-based private schools teach values. They teach not even conservative, but just what you said, the traditional values of men and women, the roles that they play in the household. The man provides, the woman's at home. It doesn't have to be like that funny picture you see back in the day where the woman's cooking and the guy's sitting there lounging after work. It's not that. It's a different dynamic now, obviously, right? Like I help around the house all the time. It's that structure that we've fallen away from, and now we're looking back and going, crap, what do we do now? It's like, well, maybe we should open our eyes a little bit.
Yeah, and you're right. People do have to open their eyes. They have to see the patterns that are being created. As long as you fail to see the patterns, you're just going to complete that cycle of tough times create strong men create easy times create weak men create tough times. And there's a way to fix that. Once you become strong and you create easy times, you need to make sure that the next generation understand what it means and what it takes to be strong. That's the only thing you have to do. And for the people who struggle with that, they just kind of go through the cycle and, oh, easy times. Okay, cool. My kid has a nice life. They're spoiled and everything. They don't know how good they got it, but they can take that kid to where they grew up. They can put that child into a situation where they have to learn and grow. Yet most parents won't. Most parents are going to fight for the kid if they get a bad grade. Most parents are going to tell their child, just do your best or whatever, get the participation trophy. And it's not that. It has to be about if you fall, get back up. If someone does something wrong, what are you going to do about it? I'm not going to fight your battles. I'm not going to be around all the time. And you have to learn, you have to go through that hardship. And when you have that mindset as a child, it's going to help you as an adult. It's like our whole conversation is basically the mindset of how you had growing up was a struggle, but then you're also cognizant. And I find that coaches, especially like mindset coaches, they are cognizant of this, but a regular typical parent, they do not even know what to do. It's just like, yeah, I had a good life. Let me spoil my kid. And they spoil their kid and their kid turns out spoiled and they're wondering what they're doing wrong. And actually a big part of my business is actually helping parents go through that process and navigate it. As we wind up, we talked about the mindset primarily, and we only got into the start of it, right? Your upbringing, the kids. I mean, there's a whole life ahead of just past that 2-year, like 2.5-year-old daughter you have. That right there is a whole life ahead. And I want my audience to understand that if you are a parent, if you have a child in your life, niece, nephew, whatever, understand that you play a critical role in that child's development. If you don't know what to do to make sure that child turns out to be the best person they can be, I encourage you to get a coach, a mindset coach, a life coach, whatever, parent coach, and learn how to be the best person in that child's life. You won't regret it. That child is going to thank you in the future. And we all have that ability to say, you know what? I'm going to make the next generation better. not just I'm going to make my life better. We are winding down. I do want to get some final thoughts, some final words from you. And then I want you to share with the audience where they can find you.
And I want to touch back on that because it has everything to do with my coaching programs. It's you have to become the best version of yourself. And by doing so, you become that role model for your kids, that role model for other parents. I have, if you follow me on Instagram, we'll tag it on later. It's just at David Fishchuk. But on there, I share all kinds of like videos and pictures of my family. And I have one I'm going to be posting later today. Kids emulate what the parents do. If you are a man and you are lazy and you sit and watch Netflix after you come back from work or after you do whatever, if you hide and sneak away and look at adult content when you're not supposed to be doing it as a grown man with a child, there is something seriously wrong. And that is the bulk of men today. They're comfort seeking. They sit around on their butts. They complain nonstop. And they're just thankful that they have a job, but then they're not actually pushing it. And what happens? Their children see it, their friends see it, but no one wants to say it because it'll hurt their feelings. But what would happen in society if instead of I am going to just complain, woe is me, I'm going to drink that booze, I'm going to sit there and do nothing, and your kid sees that? Or as they're growing up, your kid now sees you gain a bit more weight, you lose a bit more weight, you gain more weight, and you never change. You're just always out of shape. You're never advancing in your career. You're never making more money. You're always stressed out all the time. You're fighting with your spouse. That is what people see around you. The way that I coach and the way that I teach others is create the ultimate version of yourself. The only way I have found to create true and lasting change and get rid of those vices, those problems in life, those bad habits is to not dwell on them, not be, I'm stuck being an alcoholic. I'm stuck glued to my phone when my family is around. You just take the old version of you throw that person away. They're dead. And every day you wake up, say, I am an elite individual. I am a role model for my family. I'm going to get that promotion at work. I'm going to hit the gym. I'm going to follow a structured diet. I'm not going to deviate from that because every single time I say no to being lazy, every time I say no to look to grabbing that snack in the pantry, and my daughter's looking at me like, again, Dad, you're really gonna eat that snack again? Like you can't stay on that diet? No. I even 3 years ago, right before my when my daughter got born, there's a picture. The first pin you're gonna see on my Instagram is when my daughter's born. I'm a little bit skinny fat. I'm holding my daughter. And then there's 2 months ago in Florida, I'm holding her. I'm all shredded and ripped on the side. I'm like, this is what fatherhood should be. You should be advancing and showing others what is possible. So that's what I do for others. I show them what is possible because everyone knows how to lose weight. Everyone knows how to start a business. You go on YouTube. What's the difference? Implementation, discipline, mental toughness, and a mindset that is so strong that, like I said, you have to create the ultimate version of yourself. You destroy the old version of you. If you have an issue, one of my clients had drinking. And when I met him, he sat there with the bottle on his go corner of his desk. He's a real estate guy. And he was like, I really want to know how to stop drinking. And I was like, we're going to create a new version of you, but you get rid of that bottle. But the way to fix it is not getting rid of the bottle. It's not telling your friends, don't give me a drink. It is being able to sit there at a party and not at a work party, not looking at that drink and just going, well, I don't care. That ain't even me. You don't even think about it. Like I had an issue growing up looking at adult content. I'm going to keep it PG. And always, because kids these days are wrapped up on their phones. That's all you see on social media. I honestly, it's been over a year now. I don't care. The reason why I'm able to coach people is because I am true to me. I don't lie. I don't sugarcoat. It is exactly who I am. And when you actually think to yourself, I am a new person. I look to the old person as the head. There's a really cool picture of Perseus in Greek mythology holding Medusa's head. And I envision that myself holding the head of the old me every single day. That is old me, not me. So if I have an issue, alcohol, I can be at a party, look at it and go, I don't care. Why is it some people have issues with drinking and others don't? There's a book called Outwitting the Devil, and in it outlines how the devil works through people's fears and vices, and he don't care what that issue is. He will poke at it and get you to do it to reduce yourself to lesser than you are. So anytime I'm tempted to snooze in the morning, I don't because I think, not today. Anytime I see a dessert in the pantry, not today. And that's how you create a new person. And that's what I teach others to do.
And where can people find you?
primarily on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. It's all the same handle. It's at David Fishchuk. His last name is spelled Fishchuk. And mostly on there, if you have anything you need, if I can help you with coaching, you need a conversation, shoot me a DM on there. I'm always active on there, and I just post all the same stuff to Facebook and YouTube as well.
Powerful conversation we had today, talking about mindset, talking about your history, the development, how you help people. All of this is going to be important into someone's life and future. Encourage everyone to check out the links in the description box below. Follow David, subscribe to him, and then begin to get the life that you're supposed to be having. I want to thank you so much, David, for coming on Coaching in Session. Great conversation. All right, everyone. I'd like to thank you so much for watching that interview with David Fishchuk and myself. As you can see, that conversation, it just went into a mindset journey because we talked about how we grew growing up. And then from there, we said, now we have kids. How do we not repeat that cycle where it's just like, all right, now my kid is going to be weak. Now my kid is going to be spoiled and going to have a hard time in life. We can make good human beings. And I understand what's happening on social media where people are just doing things that are crazy to get views. And I understand why they do it. They want their 15 minutes of fame and they don't care how they get it. They don't understand consequences. For example, people who are overweight, they don't understand the consequence of being overweight yet. Not until they get that doctor's note or they get that lab result. They got diabetes or they have cancer. Or they have something that is harmful to them. They're not going to be promoting that being big and beautiful is an appropriate thing anymore. They're going to do their best to get back in shape. Because if you know anything about the human mind, its number one job is to keep itself alive. And we do have to understand that some of the things we do in our life are not conducive to long-term health and growth. Yes, we don't care until it's broken, but we don't have to be in that mindset. We can be in the mindset of, yes, it's not broken right now, but how can we fix it or how can we make it better? How can we make our life better? And we do it typically through fitness, but we also do it through mindset training. And if you were one of those children growing up where you were given those limiting beliefs, if you were given everything that your mom and dad wanted to give you, maybe you're a little bit spoiled, maybe you don't know how to express gratitude, you don't know how to emotionally control yourself, then you have to take that responsibility to now become the person that you should have been developing into. It's not your parents' fault. It's just that they don't know any better. Ignorance is basically the cause of all of this. They think they're doing good. Maybe they are just kind of caring for themselves. But what I can tell you is that there's an epidemic of parents who do not know how to parent because they are just thinking, as long as I give my kid everything they need, then they're going to be happy. Then they're going to be successful. And we think that happiness in our kid is happiness to us. Yet my happiness and my child's happiness, they're not related. Yes, if I see him smile and I hear him laugh, I feel joy, but he embellishes my happiness. He doesn't give me happiness. And it's the same thing in your relationships. And it's the same thing when it comes to the mindset that you have today and the mindset you'll have in the future. If you think that you are just going to easily get a fix of, oh, someone is just going to come save me, or someone is going to make me feel better, you are going to be in the worst place possible in the future. But that all can be avoided. That all can be mitigated. I always recommend getting a coach, getting someone who's going to be there to support you, to show you your blind spots. And even I have blind spots. So that's why when I have a coach and I have a mentor and I'm talking to them about my parenting, about my coaching, about my business, about whatever, they can say, that's a blind spot. This is a blind spot. I see what you're doing here. I like it or I don't like it. And then they tell me why. And that's what everyone needs. People need people that are going to look and peer into their life and hold them accountable. Even I need that. Yes, I help people, I help parents, and I do a great job at it. But there's certain aspects of my life where someone calls me out on something and I start to think, I start to reflect, and I start to say, I didn't think about that. Of course I didn't think about it because I'm just so fast going one way saying, okay, mindset. I did my work to build the foundation and the pillars of the business and everything, but it still requires maintenance. Mindset is something that you always have to adjust. You always have to check in. The best way to do that, again, is with another coach. Because if I just kind of said, I'm a mindset coach, I don't need anybody, my ego is showing at that point. Now I'm going to fail because of my ego. When I could have bowed down and I could have said, let me be humble for a minute. let me learn from this person. Let me learn from this coach. Let me learn from another individual. Let me be the student again. And if we can't be the student, and if we can't learn, if we can't be open, we are going to find ourselves behind so many closed doors. So I encourage people to not only check out David, but to check out their life. Get a piece of paper, get a pen or a pencil, whichever one you prefer. Really get something down that we are going to know for certain is there, that's easily readable, legible, that you're going to say, okay, this is my plan. This is my process. What things do you need to change? This is what needs adjustment. This is what I'm killing at right now. I'm doing really good at this. Know where you're weak, know where you're strong. And sometimes you might think that your weaknesses cannot be strengths. Sometimes your weaknesses can turn to your greatest strengths. We talked about so many great things in this episode. And I mean, for a short episode like this, it's like, how can you fit everything and how can you fit a whole life? And that's where I encourage everyone to reach out to David. You can reach out to me if you don't know me, but for the people who have been listening to the podcast, you probably have a good understanding of my mindset. You have a good understanding of who I am. But I want people to know that there is going to be like-minded individuals who want the best for the future, who want the best for their kids, who want the best for society as a whole. And they understand that there's limits. They understand that there's flaws in the way we are raising children, that the way we're living as adults. And we just need a little bit of tweaking. We need a little bit of adjustment, a little bit of modification. For the people who think that they have it all and that they can do it themselves, go for it. Tell me when you get there. Tell me how long it took you to get there. I can almost guarantee if you get a coach, if you get a mentor, get a guide, you're going to get there a lot sooner than you're going to do by yourself. I was once in that mentality. I'm going to do it by myself. I'm going to go in alone. But then I said, you know what? Let me see what would happen if I got someone in my corner, someone who can help me, someone who can push me, someone who can help me navigate through my weaknesses, who can help me turn those weaknesses into strength, and to help me turn that strength into a mindset that was going to be limitless, that was going to be impenetrable, that was going to be abundant, that was going to lead me to the person I know I can be, the person that I should be, and the person that I want to be. All of those things are going to be reflective on our actions today. No more snooze button, no more waiting, no more spoiling, no more not being grateful. This is all a mindset. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com, and I'll see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.